Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt, and we're back with another episode of Comics Daily Weekly. This is episode number 13. Today we're going to be talking about Marvel Comics from August 1967. So if you're new to this, if you're watching it on YouTube later, you're watching it on Twitch now, you don't really know what the gist is. Basically, I run a Twitter account at underscore Comics Daily on Twitter or underscore Comics Daily IG on Instagram. And every day I read a comic book. It's pretty much all Marvel Comics right now from the Silver Age. I read one every day. 1 week in our time is 1 month of publication back in the day. Today we're talking about comics from August 1967. Last week we talked about the comics from July 67. Next week we're talking about comics from September 1967. So the idea is to read these comics one a day as they came out and experience them the way they originally came out. So we can identify trends, we can see new character appearances, we can see characters develop, we can see new artists take on the book, new writers take on the book, we can see how these books evolve, how the characters evolve. We can see, like I said, new characters coming in. That one's always a really fun one, and we're going to talk about that one here in a second. But yeah, thanks for being here again. Underscore Comics Daily or on Twitter, underscore Comics Daily IG on Instagram. You'll see those at the bottom here in just a second. And actually, no, let's just get right into it. Like I said, August 1967 is what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 51, Tales of Suspense number 92, Daredevil number 31, Avengers number 43, Strange Tales number 159, and Fantastic Four number 65. So we've got some really good books today and some not so great books, but that's okay because another one of the cool things that it's fun to see as we're doing this is to see the books ebb and flow. Some of the books have been really good for a while, and now they're on a downward spiral. Some of the books have been bad this whole time, and now they're kind of a little bit on an upward trend. So that's the fun thing about doing it this way is we get to see these books grow and evolve exactly the way they did back in the day. So let's go ahead and switch over, and we're going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man number 51. Now, if you were here last week, if you watched the show last week, we talked about Amazing Spider-Man number 50, obviously one of the most classic issues of all time. Probably not just classic issues of Amazing Spider-Man, but probably one of the most classic issues of any comic ever. It's definitely up in the upper echelons. Spider-Man No More. Spider-Man, or Peter Parker's had it with being Spider-Man. He throws his costume in the trash. Jameson finds it in the trash and just automatically assumes that, oh, this must mean this is definitely Spider-Man's real costume, and it must mean that he's Dunzo's being Spider-Man. So, but by the end of the issue, he came around. He said, you know what? It's power and responsibility, that whole thing. He was reminded of Uncle Ben and why he does this in the first place. Fantastic issue that Spider-Man was barely even in, so that tells you something if the main hero isn't even really in it that much, and it's still a great issue. But one little bonus of that issue is it's the first appearance of the Kingpin, which I was really excited about. I love the Kingpin. He's not the Kingpin that I think the mass that everybody knows yet, but we're going to get there eventually. But this issue is all Kingpin pretty much all the time. So the gist of this one is that J. Jonah Jameson, has been writing about a crime spree in New York, and the Kingpin is the one behind this crime spree, and he doesn't like the no publicity is bad publicity or some publicity or something like that. But this one is. Kingpin is not a fan of Jameson writing about the crime spree in New York because he's the one behind it and he doesn't want it to all point back to him. So he kidnaps Jameson and Spider-Man's got to bail him out, right? So the beginning of this issue though, Kingpin hasn't got the news yet because Spider-Man, at the end of last issue, Peter Parker did decide to continue being Spider-Man, but he hasn't appeared again yet. So the entire underworld still thinking that Spider-Man is gone. And Kingpin's pretty happy about that. With Spider-Man gone, the city is mine. And he starts organizing crime right off the bat. He starts sending out his goons to go collect protection money, that kind of stuff. Small-time stuff that today's Kingpin isn't really known for, but we'll get there. Again, the Kingpin doesn't become the Kingpin that the larger population knows. He won't get to be that level of menacing Kingpin until Frank Miller gets a hold of him in Daredevil, in his 2 different runs of Daredevil in the 70s. We're so many weeks and months away from getting all that. I can't wait to get there, though. I have read it before, and let me tell you, those issues hold up. Those issues are almost 50 years old, and they still hold up as, in my opinion, some of the best comics of all time. Those 2 Frank Miller runs on Daredevil, those are fantastic. But yeah, Kingpin's sending out his goons to, do all the crimes. And Spider-Man, he's swinging around looking for crime to stop, coincidentally, and he stops some of them. So this is going to kind of trigger the word to get around, back to Kingpin, back to other criminals, that, hey, Spider-Man's back. He didn't quit after all. He is still here, and watch out. So we get some fight scenes here, just Spider-Man and some common thugs. Now, one thing I do like about this issue, and the next issue as well, which I actually read yesterday on November 8th. We'll be talking about it next week. And I made note of this on Twitter too, that it's always fun to watch Spider-Man take on supervillains. Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Sandman, Electro, any of those guys. It's always fun to watch him do that. But sometimes it's fun to dial back the sensationalism and just have him fight everyday street level thugs, and to focus on more street crime level stuff. Kingpin, all the kind of stuff he would do, all of his goons. The Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, like in the 200s, from around from that 1980s era, that focuses a lot on more street level crime, and the Rose, Kingpin's son, allegedly. Hobgoblin's in there too, but it's a lot more gangs and mobs and street level crime and stuff like that, and less superpowered villains all the time. So that kind of stuff is fun. I like seeing Spider-Man fight anybody, but this issue and the next one is kind of a nice break from all of the supervillains that he's fought lately. So he's just taking on some common thugs here. But what's important about this is one of Kingpin's thugs is going to go back and tell Kingpin, hey, Spider-Man's back. This isn't going to be as easy as we thought. Now, Frederick Foswell, who was the crime master, who works at the Bugle, one of Jameson's, I think he's Jameson's crime reporter for the Daily Bugle. He's sort of playing both sides. He wants to, he realizes that because Spider-Man is supposedly gone, there is a window for a new crime lord. He thinks it should be him. He's, last issue he went up against the Kingpin. He failed miserably. And so now he's still kind of working with the Kingpin, though, but he's also sort of trying to get the story as well. So he's trying to play both sides to figure out which side, the journalistic side, the criminal side, which one's going to pay off more for me. And that's what Foswell's whole shtick is in this. He's Frederick Foswell is this guy right here. In the green bow tie, in case you weren't sure. So here's the scene where Kingpin's thugs bust in. Spider-Man's back. This is going to be harder than we thought. So I do love Kingpin's bold fashion choice here. It didn't really ever click with me before, but he's got purple pants, orange vest, blue shirt, a white jacket, and somehow he manages to pull it off, I guess because nobody wants to tell him that he actually kind of looks ridiculous. But one thing that's cool here is we do get to see some of Kingpin's power, right? So he looks like a big fat dude, but he makes reference in the next issue. It's mostly solid muscle, so it's not a lot of fat. It's all muscle. He said 300 pounds of muscle. And so he is formidable. He's a little bit faster than he seems to be. He's a lot stronger than he looks. He's got a cane which can shoot some kind of something out of it, which that gets abandoned eventually, thank goodness. But he's a tough guy. I mean, this is why nobody wants to go up against the Kingpin, because he's tough. You know, he'll take you down quick, man. One thing I should mention too is that last issue, when Peter Parker decided to quit being Spider-Man, he also decided to quit being a photographer at the Daily Bugle. Now that he's decided to be Spider-Man again, he also has to try to get his photographer job back, and Jameson is very hesitant to do that, but he does let him back in because he needs pictures, right? He's always going to need pictures of Spider-Man. He's got to run his smear campaign on Spider-Man. So we do get a little bit of interaction with Peter's amazing friends, Mary Jane, Harry, Gwen. Not a lot, though. Just this little bit here at the bottom of page 10. We'll get a little bit more next week. So these issues have been a little bit light on supporting cast interaction lately. But next issue has a little bit more, and hopefully that increases a little bit, because I said it in my tweet about issue number 52 yesterday, that I think Spider-Man / Peter Parker has the best supporting cast in all of comics. Fight me, tweet me, whatever. But I love these characters. So not a lot with them. Spider-Man breaks up a robbery again. Again, some more goons are trying to get protection money. Spider-Man breaks it all up. He actually gets walloped with some gas. He manages to get a spider tracer on one of the goons. I love Spider-Man's use of spider tracers, and it's something we haven't seen in a while. He hasn't really used them in a little while. But this is going to lead him back to the Kingpin. And this is what's going to lead him to get his butt whooped. So, meanwhile, of course, Kingpin doesn't want Jameson to be writing about crime. So what does he do? He sends his goons to kidnap Jameson. I mean, easy as that, right? Jameson meets up with Kingpin. Kingpin says, "Hey, stop writing about me. This, I don't like this." Meanwhile, Spider-Man does track Kingpin's goons back to Kingpin's hideout. Of course, they have Jameson there. More fisticuffs ensue. Spider-Man, to his detriment, he actually does kind of underestimate the Kingpin. Like I said, he just sees a big fat dude. He thinks he can beat him. Like I said, it's not fat, it's muscle. He dispatches of Kingpin's goons pretty easily, but Kingpin gives him a lot more trouble. We get a really cool fight between Spider-Man and Kingpin. It's a lot closer than what you might think, but it's really fun. But Kingpin, like I said, he's got that cane, and he's got some gas that comes out of this tie pin, this pendant that he wears. Later, Kingpin doesn't really use all these gadgets and stuff. Later, Kingpin doesn't even really get all this physical either. He's more man behind the scenes, 10 steps ahead of you. I love those kinds of bad guys. We're going to see a lot of them throughout the years. Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, he's one of those that continually messes with Peter Parker and Spider-Man throughout his whole life, throughout Spider-Man's whole life, from beyond the grave. I just love villains who are, Joker's one, who are always 10 steps ahead. Kingpin is like that, but not so much here. And that's it. I mean, at the end, he knocks out Spider-Man with some gas out of his tie pin, and, he's still got Jameson captured, and now Spider-Man's down for the count, too. So next issue, we're going to see the resolution of this. How does Spider-Man and Jameson escape? There's a couple other revelations as well next week that I won't spoil. But yeah, this was nothing. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me back up a little bit, because one thing I wanted to point out, and I completely forgot about, and I'm very sorry that I did. This is a big deal to me. One of my favorite supporting characters in all of comics. Let me get back to it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to keep talking while I'm scrolling. I think it's one more page right here. The first appearance of Joe Robbie Robertson. So, what a fantastic character. He's been around since this issue, since issue number 51 in 1967. He's still around today. For the better part of his career in comics, he's been Jonah's right-hand man. Jonah's been the head of the Daily Bugle. Robbie's been the top editor. I'm not really sure what the position is. Publisher, editor-in-chief. kind of always been the number 2 guy at the Bugle, and where Jameson is a complete, really mean, kind of a jerk, kind of a blowhard. Robbie is really nice and soft-spoken and firm but fair. He's the voice of reason, basically. To Jonah is always ranting and raving and talking bad about Spider-Man, making up things that aren't there. Robbie has always been the counterbalance to that, the voice of reason, telling Jonah to calm down, to maybe not run this story, or maybe do this or that Jonah might not do. So this is the only panel that Robbie appears in this issue. He does pop up 1 or 2 panels next issue, but that right there is the perfect example of what's fun about reading comics this way, is that we are now, every week, we're going to see him grow, and we're going to see his role in these stories grow and grow and grow. So I really, really look forward to seeing Robbie Robertson become a much more major player in this book, because, like I said, he's one of the best supporting characters in all of comics. He'll play a huge role in the 70s and 80s. Well, shoot, I mean, all of them, all the eras. Silver, bronze, well, not necessarily silver so much, but bronze, copper, modern. He's there through all of it. It's fantastic. I love Robbie Robertson. But that's it. I mean, that's pretty much all for this Spider-Man. Is basically, Spider-Man, now that he's decided to be or Peter Parker, now that he's decided to be Spider-Man again, he's going to take on the Kingpin and a bunch of the Kingpin's thugs. And he underestimates Kingpin, and that leads to some good fights. That leads to him figuring out how to escape next issue. It's really cool. So I'm glad that Kingpin is finally in this book. I hope he's around a lot more. I know that he's in next issue for sure. I don't think he comes back again for a little while after that, but we'll see. But yeah, Kingpin, Joe Robertson. We're really getting into the really good cast of characters now. All right. Let me look up. All right. Tales of Suspense, number 92. Now, again, I'll say it every week, and I'll say it this time too. Tales of Suspense is a double feature between Captain America and Iron Man. It started, not from number 1, but Iron Man's been in it since issue number 39, his first appearance. Captain America, it started to be in a double feature with number 59, so almost 40 issues ago, 33 issues ago. What's interesting is that sometimes they flip-flop who comes first, Captain America or Iron Man. And I agree with this one, that Captain America should come first, because the Captain America story in this book is a lot better. So let me get to my notes on this one here. So yeah, double feature with Captain America and Iron Man. We've only got 7 more issues of this book before Iron Man splits off into his own book and starts over with Iron Man number 1, which I'm really excited about. And Captain America is going to continue this numbering, but it's just going to be Captain America. So Tales of Suspense, the title Tales of Suspense, is actually going to go away in 7 more issues, or in our time, 7 more weeks, or actually 6 more weeks from this stream, but 7 more weeks from this issue, because this was from last week. So I'm really excited about Cap and Iron Man getting their own titles. The Cap story that's coming up is a really interesting one too. But we'll start with Iron Man. This one was kind of average. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad story, but it's sort of unremarkable. Iron Man is helping the military test out some, what do they call it? Tracer shells that Tony Stark created. That basically heat-seeking bullets, I guess. You shoot a bullet out of a gun and it tracks your target. So that's pretty cool. But he's helping the military test these bullets, and they recruit him for a mission. So let's get to that. Hold on one second. Whoop. Sorry, I messed that up. They say, hey, we got a mission for you. They send him into Vietnam, and I actually kind of thought that was weird, because I talked about it last week, how these issues lately have gone to great pains to not specifically mention any actual country. So they used to mention China a lot. Now they just mention the Far East. They used to mention Russia a lot. Now they'll just mention Europe. that kind of thing. So they go to great lengths to not mention any specific countries, and I would love to know the story behind that, or if there is one. Maybe there's not. But they get reports that a new weapon's being developed somewhere in Vietnam. And again, let me just preface this by saying this was written in 1967. So this is what was going on at the time. So, we're just going to talk about what happens in the book, in this particular story. So they get word that a weapon is being developed deep in Vietnam by a mysterious scientist known only as Half-Face. And I was a little bit nervous about that name for the villain, but next issue we'll see why. And it's fine. It makes sense. But they basically just want Iron Man to go behind enemy lines and find this weapon and destroy it. So he's going to fly in a little bit through on a helicopter, and then he drops down into the jungle. Some bad guys bad guys in the context of this story, the way this was written. I just want to be very clear about that. They try to shoot him. His armor holds up just fine. A really cool page here of him shaking some dudes out of a tree. I really kind of like that. But he goes to a castle, and you guys know how much fun I have with superheroes in castles. Iron Man's done it a couple times. Daredevil's done it 3 times, I think. The Avengers have done it. Superheroes in castles are really fun. I think Fantastic Four, did they do it? Yeah. Because Doctor Doom has one in Latveria, so Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer. There's been all kinds of castles in these books since we've started doing this. So Iron Man's slinking around this castle, around the outside of this castle, trying to figure out how to get in. And here, you can see here, this is why he's called Half-Face. And we get a little bit more of an explanation to this next issue. What's up, hero? How's it going, man? Castle Doom is a popular locale. Yes, it is. Lots of shenanigans happen at Castle Locale. Castle Doom. But yeah, so Half-Face, we do get his quote-unquote origin next issue. It's not much of one. But you can see why he's called Half-Face, because he's got like a metal jaw and this thing around his head. So that's why he's called Half-Face. Like I said, I was a little bit worried about that name, but it's fine. But he sees Iron Man, booby trapping him, trying to prevent him from getting in the castle. So it's a lot of fun. We've seen this stuff before though with Iron Man trying to sneak into castles, and it doesn't seem like it's been very long ago that it's happened. But yeah, Iron Man fights his way into the castle, ripping down doors. What's up, Latin? How's it going, man? And there's these mechanical dogs that are pretty cool that he's got to fight. Those are kind of neat. So, Iron Man's just going through, tearing up stuff. This is really cool to see. This is such... And I really shouldn't talk about this anymore because it's been so long since this has happened. But I just have to mention it every so often that Tales of Suspense and the Iron Man stories used to be just awful because he would just complain about running out of power, running out of juice, not being strong enough. Or if I do this, I've got enough energy for one last brave feat and then I'm done. None of that happens anymore. So Iron Man just goes full tilt all the time, taking out robot dogs, smashing in steel doors, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of this issue, this massive steel door opens. There's something moving inside, something huge coming towards me. Next issue, face to face with what? You like the Cliff Notes, Latin? I'm glad that I can provide that service for you. I'll give you the brief rundown. So, but yeah, so this issue in particular, very average, not bad, but it's not really remarkable. There's not a lot that happens here other than Iron Man smashing his way into a castle, trying to get to this evil scientist named Half-Face, trying to destroy his weapon. The payoff comes next issue, but I won't spoil it. I read that today, tweeted about it today, so we'll talk about it next week. I won't spoil it. So, moving on to the Captain America story. So this one kind of starts, I think this one kind of starts the beginning of what I hope is a pretty cool and not necessarily long running story, but one that goes on for several issues because the next issue of this deals with this as well. I did have to, I did have to tweet a picture of this creepy girl. Well, I don't think. Hold on, let me try to get in closer. Yeah, right. This girl, and I wish I could on my iPad. I was able to get in a lot closer. She stares into your soul. She can read your innermost thoughts, feelings, desires, and her doll can too. Her doll is where the power comes from, right? Creepy. I don't like it. I'm just joking. I don't know who that girl is. She's nobody. She doesn't appear in the story. This happens a lot where I think it's we've seen this like in Spider-Man and some other stories where somebody will be walking like in the background. There's people walking, but there'll be one person looking right at you. And I always feel like that's supposed to be somebody in real life. And the artist, in this case Jack Kirby, they'll throw him in there as like a nice Easter egg. So I feel like this girl is somebody, but man, those eyes, that smile, that is not a good, happy smile. That is I am going to feast on the soul of your nightmares smile. So let's get off of this page. So Cap's been going through a little bit of a bummer lately. His threads, the threads of my tangled life, as he says. So he's taking a little bit of a break from the Avengers, although props to Captain America for having FaceTime in 1967, right? That's pretty cool. He's got FaceTime before the rest of us did. I do love this panel. That, Cap says he's fine. Scarlet Witch says, it almost worries me. It's as though he's trying to convince us that he's feeling happy. Glass says, I know what you mean. He's trying too hard. It means the poor guy is fighting another mood of depression. So Cap can't possibly be happy. He's acting like he's happy. He must be depressed. Because he definitely can't actually be happy. I love that. I think that's hilarious. Meanwhile, AIM is back, right? We thought AIM was destroyed. I don't even remember what issue that was, but we thought AIM was... Oh, it was in Strange Tales. We thought that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury... Remember the weird ending to that one issue of Strange Tales where the AIM operatives, the AIM agents get into the back of Gabe Jones's car because he's posing as an AIM agent, and at the very last panel he just has this like weird grin on his face and we never see them again. That's when AIM was taken down. Well, AIM is back, and also returning is, and I'm putting this in air quotes, the mysterious female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, because we still haven't learned her name yet. Now, it's Sharon Carter, right? Agent 13. But if we were reading this in August of 1967, we don't know that yet. So, because we're reading it that way, we are going to pretend like we don't know that either, and she's just the mysterious female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that keeps popping up. Her and Cap's paths keep crossing. They keep saying how they feel like there's a connection. They feel like they're drawn to each other, but they don't know why. Well, because in the comics, Sharon Carter's aunt is Peggy Carter, Cap's girlfriend back from World War II. Now, in the movies, Sharon Carter is Peggy Carter's granddaughter because how the age works. Because keep in mind, back in the 60s, 65... Did I say? Well, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Sharon Carter is Peggy's niece. That's what I meant to say. Peggy is her aunt. I may have flip-flopped those. But back in the 60s, Cap had only been when he was unfrozen and joined the Avengers. Keep in mind, he had only been frozen for 20 years. Right, World War II ended in 45. He was awakened in 65. So the ages work out there. Whereas in the movies, he was frozen for 70 years. So it works out. It works out better that way. It would be weird if he was frozen for 70 years and Sharon was still Peggy's niece. So anyway, but you get it. So that's why they feel like they're connected, but they don't know why yet. And even in the next issue from where we are now, again, I read it today. There's even a whole panel of the mysterious female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent saying, I haven't even told you my name yet, and we haven't even blah, blah, blah. It's like, just tell him your name. just tell him. So, anyway, so she's back. She is on an undercover mission with S.H.I.E.L.D., trying to sort of get embedded with AIM to learn more about him and take him down, right? Meanwhile, Cap, nice three-piece suit, his fedora, walking down the street, and all of a sudden, because it's the 60s, and we see this every week, because it's the 60s, the bad guys have a giant robot. That's just how it happens, right? Cap's got to change into his costume and go into action. The robot is actually heading for the barber shop that we've seen several times in Strange Tales, where it's a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. The barbershop isn't the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, but it's like the secret entrance into the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. So you can see Nick Fury sitting in... he's sitting in the barber's chair, pretending to get a haircut. That chair actually goes down into the HQ. So Cap's going to fight this robot. It looks like Nick Fury's down for the count. A lot of this is just Cap and a giant robot fighting, because that's what happens a lot. It's kind of, this is a little bit unremarkable. I don't want to say it's unremarkable, but it's, there's not a lot happening here. But this is the beginning to a story that I think is going to carry over. I know that there's a really cool story starting in Tales of Suspense number 97, featuring, Cap, Red Skull, Black Panther. I don't know how much this feeds into that. Sharon Carter's there. So I don't know if this continues all the way there, or if we're going to get a 1 or 2 issue break between these two stories, but they're all kind of related, right? So yeah, Cap's fighting this giant robot. He finally beats him, and Nick Fury's there. Nick Fury's not dead after all, and Nick Fury gives him a little information about, hey, the mysterious female S.H.I.E.L.D. agent is actually embedded with AIM to try to get more information about them. So, whereas this issue was really just Cap versus a giant robot, it is the opening piece to what I think is going to be a pretty cool story. 2 issues from now, we are going to get the first appearance of a major villain. Next issue, he's mentioned for the first time. And I won't spoil who it is. If you follow me on either of these accounts right down here, you would know who it is, or you might just know anyway if you know your history. But so yeah, this was a good issue, a really action-packed issue. But the best stuff is both stories are a setup for better stories to come. All right, so moving on to Daredevil number 31. Guys, I mentioned a few weeks ago that my top books were Amazing Spider-Man, always going to be my top book, Tales of Suspense, and then Daredevil at number 3. Daredevil has, it's gone down the tubes fast. There have been a lot of bad issues of Daredevil, consecutive bad issues of Daredevil for a while now. And this one isn't any better. So, if you remember last week, Daredevil number 30, I talked about how Daredevil, it's a continuation of Daredevil making a lot of really dumb, really bad decisions. And this is another one of those. So, last week he had to take on Mr. Hyde and Cobra. And as a way to, it was so stupid, as a way to sort of draw them out so it wouldn't take him as long to find them, he dressed up as Thor. And there was the one fantastic panel of Matt Murdock pretending to be Mike Murdock, wearing the Daredevil costume underneath a costume for Thor, right? And the only cool thing about last issue was Daredevil and Thor fought. That's cool, right? Daredevil versus Thor is awesome. Daredevil doesn't stand a chance against Thor, but it's still cool to see them fight. Thor's not in this one. But at the end of last issue, Mr. Hyde douses Daredevil with some chemicals that are supposed to make him blind. But because Daredevil's already blind, it removes or negates or nullifies his super senses, right? So now, at the end of last issue, and all through this issue, he's just a regular blind guy. He's still blind, but he doesn't have any of the other superhuman abilities that make Daredevil Daredevil. But, he's got an overwhelming sense of responsibility, so he's got to, he can't sit on the sidelines. He knows that he's still got to deal with Mr. Hyde and Cobra. The first couple pages of this issue are just him sort of fumbling around in that lab from the end of last issue, trying to find a way out. He's out in the street, pretending, he's trying to act like everything's okay. When he realizes he can't, then he starts to pretend like he just kind of got knocked around. And he just, somebody rung his bell real good. And that's fine. I mean, that makes sense. He's just sort of woozy. And there's a really fun part here where a girl, rips part of his mask off, and he sort of swats her hand away. And another dude gets mad at Daredevil for doing that, even though this girl tried to rip his face off. So I thought that was humorous. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong issue on my notes here. Let me get my notes here. There we go. He finally makes it to. Does he go to the law offices or? Yeah, he goes to the law offices of Nelson and Murdoch, right? Or maybe he goes to his house and then goes to the office of Nelson and Murdoch. But because Daredevil's still trying to carry on this Mike Murdoch thing, he still puts on his Mike Murdoch costume, these awful glasses and whatever else he's wearing, and now he's dug himself such a deep hole of lies that he's never gonna get out. Like, it's one thing for Spider-Man to lie to Mary Jane about him being Spider-Man, or does Superman lies to Lois Lane about being Clark Kent, or vice versa. It's one thing to just do this to protect your identity, but Daredevil has taken this way too far with Mike Murdoch and Matt Murdock and Daredevil and all this stuff. So he dresses up as Mike Murdoch, and if he's for real blind now, right? So instead of going to see Karen and Foggy as Matt Murdock, who is supposed to be for real blind, he dresses up as Mike Murdoch, goes to the office, and then has to convince them that he, Mike, is now also blind. This is so stupid. Daredevil is so hard for me to read week to week. It was so good for a while. And now it's so bad. And I love Daredevil. He is my number 2 or 3 favorite Marvel hero. He flip-flops with Captain America based on the story and what kind of mood I'm in. Spider-Man's my number 1, but right after Spider-Man, it's a toss-up between Daredevil and Captain America. I love Daredevil. And this is so stupid. I hate this. But on the flip side, Foggy doesn't believe him because he says, but wait, Matt's the blind one. As if 2 people couldn't be blind. However, it is strange that one brother is blind and now all of a sudden the other brother is blind. And he tries to pass it off as, well, maybe it's some kind of genetic thing and it took longer to hit me or something like that. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Why not genetics, right? Why not just go to the office as Matt Murdock? You would have such an easier time convincing them that you are blind if you really are. Oh my gosh. I think I'm spending way too long on this. Last week I said that the books that aren't good, that don't have a whole lot of major things that happens, I said that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on them. Doesn't Foggy? No. So Foggy does not know that Matt got blind through chemicals yet. I don't think. I don't think he finds that out until... Well, that's a good question. I don't think he does. I think he doesn't find that out until he finds out that Matt is Daredevil. I'm pretty sure they actually don't address it because in Daredevil #1, Foggy's there and they've been buddies since college, so he already knows that Matt's blind. I don't think they ever really talk about how Foggy found out. It's just Foggy just knows that he's blind because they've been buddies since college, right? But I don't think Foggy doesn't really learn the whole story until he finds out that Matt is Daredevil. And I don't even know when that happens. I know it does happen, but I'm not sure when. Meanwhile, Mr. Hyde and Cobra, they're up to no good. They're sneaking in a warehouse. They're stealing. What is it they're stealing? They're stealing money. I mean, that's it. They're stealing money. They run up to the top of a building. The cops are chasing after them. Foggy and Karen can see. I love this panel. Karen Page is the worst character in comics at this time. First Matt's blindness, and now you, Mike. It's almost too much to believe. And then she thinks to herself, and just when I think I had my hair restyled to show Mike, and now he can't even see it. She's real concerned about Mike being blind. She's upset that he can't see her hair. Karen Page is the worst character in this era of comics. Who wrote this story? Well, Stan Lee, supposedly. Now, I do kind of question, let's go back to the beginning. I do kind of question how many of these books that Stan wrote at this time. I already know that, at the point we're at with Strange Tales, Jim Steranko's been handling the story on that one. I think Gene Colan wrote a couple. But still, these books, by and large, have Stan's name on them. Now, something that I've always kind of kept to myself as I've been reading through these is, I love Stan Lee. I was so sad to hear about it, his passing. I've got all kinds of Stan Lee collectibles. He's the man, Stan the Man Lee, right? He created all of my favorite characters. I've got a print of him and Spider-Man up in my living room. I've got the Marvel Legends Stan. I mean, I love this man, right? I love Stan Lee. But it's reading through all of these titles that he wrote, or that that he has his name on as a writer. A lot of them are the same. So while I do love him for creating, and he's obviously a creative genius for all the characters he created, but a lot of these stories are the same. A lot of them involve giant robots. A lot of them involve giant robots. A lot of them involve heroes losing their powers or not wanting to be heroes anymore. And I do realize that that's what made Marvel special and much more different from DC at the time, was DC heroes were bastions of perfection and never had any problems and were there solely to beat the bad guy. And Marvel comes along in the 60s and tips all of that on its ear and introduces heroes with problems. Sure, the hero wins in the end, but maybe their secret identity, whoever they are, maybe they don't. Peter Parker, he stops the bad guy, but Aunt May is sick and he has problems. So that's what makes Marvel so much different, and that's what Stan brought to the table. But I'm just talking about like issue to issue. Like a lot of these stories aren't, a lot of them aren't great. But I still love Stan, and I feel like because Stan wrote it, I should love all of these, but I just don't. And this story is really dumb. So anyway, Mr. Hyde and Cobra are on the top of a building, and they're fighting with the police. So what does Mike/Matt Murdock decide that he needs to do? He needs to go out because their law offices are across the street, in the building across the street, right? So legit blind Matt Murdock/Mike Murdock puts on the Daredevil costume, goes out on the roof with Foggy's help, and he wants to make it look like those chemicals didn't affect him. And I understand that because Mr. Hyde and Cobra are banking on the fact that Daredevil's out of commission. So Daredevil wants to show that, hey, I'm okay. So he casts his Billy Club line across to the building across the street. Keep in mind, right now he's legit blind, and now he's basically tightrope walking across from one building across to the other. And instead of fighting, this is the rest of the issue. This is the rest of the issue. Of course, we're only a couple pages away from the end. But the rest of the issue is him trying to sort of teeter-totter on this cable way across, way up high from the street. One wrong move, and he's going to get splattered all over the pavement. He actually does fall, manages to catch himself. But just that one act of sorta, kinda trying to cross a tightrope is enough to scare off Mr. Hyde and Cobra. Daredevil is able to come back in, get back to safety. Now, the end of this is cool, though, because the last page is pretty neat, because Foggy is walking with Matt/Mike dressed as Daredevil, trying to get back to Matt's house. Again, Daredevil's completely blind at this point. And Foggy gets, like stealth taken down, like a takedown in a video game. Like taken down, and Cobra pops up behind him. So you can see on this last page here, they sneakily kidnap Foggy, and Cobra takes his place. Daredevil says, hey, what happened? Where are you? Cobra, although I don't know why Matt couldn't, even without a super hearing, I don't know why Matt can't tell that Foggy's voice is different, but Cobra says, nothing to worry about, I'm okay. I just forgot for a second that you still really are blind. And so that was kind of a cool ending. So I'm assuming next issue, this says next, the real Daredevil, I'm assuming he's going to get his powers back, or his abilities back, and he's going to dispatch Mr. Hyde and Cobra pretty easily. But man, this is probably the hardest book for me to read at this point. And I say that because Avengers number 43 is actually pretty good. So you guys know that up to this point, I haven't really enjoyed any Avengers, starting with number 1 all the way up through now. I mean, number 4 is awesome because that's when Cap joins the team. There was a few issues in maybe around 10, 11, 12 where the Masters of Evil show up. Baron Zemo and Enchantress and Executioner. Those guys, they show up. Those are some fun stories. But by and large, Avengers is not good in this whole, since they've been out. Avengers isn't good. And in fact, and I mentioned it last week, I've got the Avengers Omnibus, volumes 3 and 4 down here, that reprints starting with 57 through 100 and something between the two of them. I don't think I want volumes 1 and 2 because those stories aren't good. I would rather spend my money on stories that I like. However, number 43 is pretty good. Number 43, we sort of get a payoff. So we've seen over the last several issues, we've seen little snippets of what the Black Widow's doing. She's on a mission sort of undercover for Nick Fury. Kind of looks like she's betrayed America. So, but she really hasn't. But she's kind of going undercover. She went behind. Again, this is written in the 60s. So I'm just saying what they said. She went behind the bamboo curtain. And the folks over there have developed a weapon called the Psychotron, I think it was. And she's trying to get information about it. She's trying to destroy it. And it's a lot of cat and mouse about she's betrayed the country. They let her in. But they know that she's a traitor. So they lock her up. But then she manages to escape. But it's because they let her escape. And there's a lot of cat and mouse. A lot of back and forth like that. So, but we've only been getting like snippets. Like a few panels every issue. Or I think maybe last issue. Maybe we got a whole page or two. I'm not real sure. It was more last issue. But the whole thing is this issue is sort of all of that, the wrap up of all of that, or all of that comes to a head in this issue. And this is the first appearance of the Red Guardian, which if you guys, I'm sure everybody's seen trailers for the Black Widow movie coming out next year. It's supposed to be this year. But Red Guardian is in that one. David Harbour's playing him, so I can't wait to see that. So this is his first appearance. This issue also is largely Hawkeye and Hercules, who have been bickering a lot over the last several issues, but they actually managed to get along in this. There's not a lot of Quicksilver. There's not a lot of, thank goodness, I've never liked Quicksilver ever. I've never liked him. Not a lot of Goliath. Not a lot of anybody. They show up. I think they're around a little bit, but this is mostly Hawkeye and Hercules on a mission to rescue Black Widow, which is really cool. No. Okay, never mind. Okay, the first page didn't load for some reason. This that you're seeing right now is not part of the issue. The first page didn't load. Let me just look at it here. The first page is just Cap and Hawkeye sparring, and Quicksilver kind of showing off, takes both of their weapons away from him. So that's not it. You can see it here. Quicksilver is being kind of pompous and just, sort of messing around with him. Jan inherits money from her father. I guess her father passed away. I think that's going to come up again because she is rich, I think, in the comics from this. We'll more about that later. They don't even really talk about $3 million, I guess, is what she gets, which back then was a whole lot of money. Meanwhile, Hawkeye is... Okay, so something weird happens here. So Hawkeye wants to figure out where Black Widow is, right? And I was trying to remember what what tips him off to go do this. But basically, he's doing the classic shakedown. He's going to go to the bars and the back alleys and beat up a bunch of bad guys and try to get information about Black Widow and what she's doing and that kind of thing. Later in the issue, he actually mentions that it's a good thing that the tracking device that she's wearing still works. To which my response is, if she's wearing that, then why any of these pages right here? Why this is all for nothing? Why not just track the tracking system? But whatever, it's fine. So Hawkeye's busting up a bunch of thugs just to try to get information about the Black Widow. He's going to go off on his own and save her, rescue her, but Hercules is going to tag along with him. So again, Hawkeye and Hercules are kind of going on a buddy trip, and it's really cool. Meanwhile, behind the bamboo curtain, again, that's what they say in this issue, we see that the Red Guardian, we meet the Red Guardian. He's basically, behold, comrade, the People's Republic presents its counterpart to the accursed Captain America, though born in your country, I guess Russia? Yeah, I don't think they mention Russia specifically, but it's supposed to be Russia. Though born in your country, he is now our foremost offender, the invincible Red Guardian. I think Red Guardian looks cool. Red costume, white boots, white gloves, white belt, red star on his chest, although I think that star becomes white later. And instead of a shield, right now anyway, he's got this like magnetic disc that hooks onto his belt. But he can throw that around the way Cap can throw his shield. But basically, think about a Russian version of Captain America. That's what he is. What's funny is that, and I'll call it out here, well, maybe I don't. I did think it was funny that the Russian general loves what he sees from Red Guardian. And instantly what he wants to do is see Red Guardian fight Captain America. Not, let's make more of these types of soldiers. Let's go infiltrate these enemy lines or whatever. No, I want to see this dude fight Captain America. That's my number one priority for Red Guardian. Okay. Red Guardian is showing off, showing everything that he can do against these other soldiers. Meanwhile, it is here in this panel, right here. I didn't dare dream that Tasha was still wearing that homing beam gizmo I gave her, but she is, and it led us straight to her. Who says these East-West romances can't have a happy ending? So on Twitter, I said, If Natasha's been wearing a homing beacon this whole time, why did Hawkeye need to rough up a criminal in a bar to learn where she is? So yeah, there's plot holes like this all the time in these books. So anyway, that homing device, I guess, combined with the information he got from that thug in the bar, led them here. Led them to where Natasha is. He has anger management issues. That's right. He's got to... He just needs to, release a little bit. You know what I mean? So this is cool. Hercules and Hawkeye are, going through these soldiers, like they're paper. No match really for either one of them. Until they run up against Red Guardian. So we get a cool little fight of Red Guardian versus Hercules. That's really fun. He actually manages to trick Hercules, locking him in a room. He actually locks him in a room and turns the Psychotron on. Hey, the boy, how's it going? He actually he actually turns the Psychotron on him. And makes it look like this is a cool scene where Hercules is sort of hallucinating that he's fighting a Hydra, not Hydra, the organization. But, I was wondering if that was you, buddy. Do you have a Twitch account now? That is my son. Hey, buddy. Did you just now sign up for this? Oh, man. How's it going, bud? The boy. Yeah, that's what I call him. I don't like to, well, of course, it's in here in chat. I don't like to put his name out on the internet too much because there's a lot of crazies out there. So I just lovingly refer to him anytime in Twitter or when I post pictures or whatever as the boy, right? The boy 2020. That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome. I had to create an account to say hi. Well, I'm glad you did, buddy. And you really should be getting to bed. It's 9:30. Ultimate Hero, this is cool seeing Hercules, the only story I've read. Oh, dude, Hercules, yeah. Hercules is really cool. And he's been around for a while now. So Hercules I like Hercules in these books a lot. He's a pretty fun character. Keep up the good work. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Thanks for signing up for an account just so you could say hi to me. When I saw that name, I was like, the boy 2020. That's, that's a coincidence that I call him that. But good night, buddy. I love you. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now he can sign in and watch and stuff. So Hercules thinks he's hallucinating, thinks he's fighting a Hydra, not the Hydra, not like Shield Hydra, but a Hydra. And so we get a couple cool scenes of Hercules, supposedly fighting this giant Hydra fire-breathing thing. It was really cool. It's a really cool sequence there. Meanwhile, Hawkeye is outside of the room, left to take on Red Guardian. So it's kind of like, Hawkeye versus Captain America, sort of, kind of. Red Guardian actually manages to dispatch Hawkeye, sticks him in these tubes, where Hawkeye's finally reunited with Black Widow. He's been pining away for her for several issues now. And we learn that Red Guardian is actually Black Widow's husband. Oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. We comic fans already knew this, but if you were reading this in 1967, you didn't know that. So I do wonder, though, if they're going to play that angle in the Black Widow movie. So if David Harbour's Red Guardian, is he going to be Natasha's husband or maybe former husband in the movie? I'm not sure if they're going to play that card, but they obviously do know each other and have a past from the trailers, as well they should. But I just don't know if they're going to do the husband-wife thing. So yeah, by the end of the issue, Hercules is hallucinating, fighting a Hydra. Hawkeye and Black Widow are trapped. I think the name used is the second one. What are you talking about? And meanwhile, back at Avengers HQ, they finally realize that Hawkeye and Hercules are gone. There's only one place they could have gone. Avengers Assemble. The second Red Guardian. Oh. I don't think that I knew there were two. Huh. I should have known that, and I didn't. I didn't know there were two of them. Interesting. I'm going to read up on that. I appreciate you telling me that. So yeah, Avengers Assemble. They're going to go rescue Hawkeye and Black Widow and Hercules. And that's it. So this one, actually, I thought this one, you guys know I have not enjoyed Avengers for the most part since the beginning. I thought this issue was pretty cool. And I do know that we're starting to slowly ramp up to where things get good. Vision, Ultron, Yellow Jacket, Hank Pym goes crazy, that kind of stuff. We're getting there. That's in the mid to late 50s, and this is what issue number 43. So we've still got several issues, which translates for us into several weeks. So it's not going to be till so what is it? 14 issues. I mean, we could say 12 issues, I guess. So 12 weeks, 3 more months. 3 more months until, we get to where Avengers really kind of starts to get good. There's at least 7 people who have donned the Red Guardian name. I did not know that. Holy cow. I knew Red Guardian from, I knew he's been a long time, not always a foe of the Avengers. I knew he first premiered way back in this time period, but I don't know a lot about his backstory. So, 7 people. That's interesting. I'm going to have to read up on that a little bit more. So, anyway, this Avengers, not so bad. Hopefully it'll keep with this train. I think part of it, too, is I just don't like this lineup of Avengers. I don't like Hawkeye. I'm sorry. No. I do like Hawkeye. I do not like Quicksilver. Never really been the biggest fan of Scarlet Witch. I mean, take her or leave her. Obviously, she's very important to more modern stories, House of M and, Decimation and No More Mutants and all that stuff. So she's pretty important there. But, I'd give me Cap, give me Iron Man, Thor, give me Black Panther, Vision, Hawkeye. Give me those guys. I really like that's my key lineup. Give me Wonder Man and Beast. I can't wait for those guys to get there. That's going to be a long time for us. But this one was pretty decent. I hope this trend continues. All right. So Strange Tales number 159 was a really fun issue. Now, Strange Tales, like I said before, like I say every week, is a double feature between Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Doctor Strange. I've only been reading the Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. Nothing against Doctor Strange. I just didn't feel like it. Right. I was in the mood to read spy stuff, which is why I started to read Nick Fury. So we just got off a pretty long for the time that this came out, 67. We just got off of a fairly long story arc between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. It was revealed that Baron von Strucker was the head of Hydra. There was the whole thing with the Death Spore, right? It was a bomb on the helicarrier that Hydra managed to sneak on there. It was going to release germs all over the world, like into some kind of pandemic, as if that would really happen, right? No, but Nick Fury pretty much single-handedly took down Hydra on Hydra Island, escaped with Lara Brown, and detonated the Death Spore on Hydra Island, but they had a shield, so it didn't affect the rest of the world. And basically, last issue was the finale of all of that. That was a really good story, especially for how long it ran back in this day. So this is sort of a kind of a breather issue, like a sort of a chance to catch your breath. Sort of let's reset. Let's introduce some new characters so that we can start telling new stories, right? So my synopsis that I wrote on Twitter for this is: Hydra has been defeated, and it's time for Fury and the rest of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to get some much-needed R&R. But Fury can't rest for too long before he has to start training some new recruits, and who better to help him do that than Captain America? So, the first few pages of this issue, everybody is chill. Like, everybody goes their separate ways. You've got Dum Dum doing his own thing, Sitwell doing his own thing, Gabe Jones is about to go undercover on another mission, Lara Brown's going to go do her own thing. You can see, I can't zoom in on this very, for some reason, Strange Tales doesn't zoom properly on the web. But you can see in this bottom left panel, They're all shaking hands, going their separate ways. Sitwell the traitor, yeah. Well, in Sitwell in the movies, yeah. Traitor in the movies. He was a big time Shield agent in these stories, like an important one. So, but they're basically, it's kind of like, think about it as like your best buds, you all graduate high school and you all go to different colleges. That's what these guys are doing here, right? And we get some cool shots. We get a little bit of Nick Fury's origin, which is kind of cool. Not really origin, but Nick Fury is a kid growing up on the streets and his sort of home life, that kind of thing. You know, he finally goes back to his swanky pad for some R&R. You know, he's gonna sleep, get a shower, get a shave, put on a new suit, and then he's gonna go to another Shield headquarters. I think this page is cool, where there are some new recruits. And we don't meet them all, but here they are. Let me zoom in on this as best as I can for what... Well, see, it doesn't even... Yeah, I don't know why this doesn't zoom in properly on the way. This title, this series, is the only one that doesn't. But you can see in this first panel all these new characters. Now, we don't really meet them all. The only one we meet is this bald dude who's supposed to be, I guess, like their tech guy. His name is Sidney E. Levine. But those who know me, those who know me close, call me the Gaff. And Fury says, "Hey, fix my car. You know, give me a new car," because he's like he's the Q, right? He's the gadget guy of Shield. Meanwhile, you've got the rest of these recruits. I'm assuming we're gonna meet more of them next issue, so we'll be reading that one this coming Thursday. Talking about it next week. But the rest of this issue is him kind of sparring with Cap as a way to train them, I guess, even though they just sit up there and watch. So that's kind of bizarre, but Jim Steranko, Fury versus Captain America, that's awesome. So if for nothing else other than Steranko, Fury versus Cap, this is great. This is great. And the whole thing is just a fight between the two of them. And they're not, I mean, like, legit fighting. They're more sparring than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's just, that's it. Like, that's all there is. There's no threat. There's no new threat or anything like that. It's just these new recruits watching Fury and Cap spar each other. And that's it. So, yeah. I'm assuming these characters are going to stick around. I haven't read these old issues, and we've only got 9 issues left of Nick Fury in Strange Tales before it spins off into a proper Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. title. I don't know if that's immediately following Strange Tales or if there's a few months gaps. I'm not real sure. We're going to read it whenever it does come out. But yeah, so I guess we'll wait till next issue to see what really happens with these guys. Like I said, I'm assuming they stick around, but we'll see. But Steranko drawing Captain America and Nick Fury fighting, that's all you need. That's all you need. All right. And then the last issue that we're going to talk about this week is Fantastic Four number 65, the first appearance of Ronan the Accuser. So if you don't know the comics, but you do know the movies, Ronan the Accuser was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He was in he was a little bit in Captain Marvel. But this is his first appearance. So last issue, remember, was the first mention of the Kree, which was really cool. And they had to fight that Kree sentry on the island. The sentry failed. They messed up the sentry pretty good. Ronan becomes a guardian himself. Yeah, so actually, I've been reading that over the last few months. In the War of Kings or War of Kings. Yeah, Ronan actually marries Crystal to unite the Kree and is it Crystal? Yeah, but I don't remember why, because they're both sort of to unite the Kree and the Inhumans, and the Shi'ar don't love it. But yeah, he's not like such a bad dude anymore. But this is a follow-up of last issue where they defeat the Kree sentry. And this actually, as I was reading this, I was like, why does this story seem familiar? They both have an unquenchable thirst for Fanta. I love cherry Fanta and orange Fanta. I like Fanta. I like the cherry the best. So as I was reading this, though, I was thinking, this story. Why does this story seem so familiar? And it's because it hit me that in the, I want to say 2007, maybe 2009, Fantastic Four animated series that was on Cartoon Network that only ran for one season. I watched the first episode of that on Disney Plus a while back. And it's this story. It's Ronan coming to Earth. He puts this big cone in just the middle of the street that nobody can get into or out of, and he zaps in the Fantastic Four to hold them accountable for their crimes. Now, I don't remember what crime he said they were accused of in the cartoon, but in this one, their crime is messing up their century, right? I mean, they're not happy about that. They messed up the Kree century, so now the Kree are sending their top enforcer to punish the Fantastic Four, right? Now, let me just blow through these first few pages, because these first few pages are literally nothing other than, well, they sort of have this dream. It's not really a dream, but the Supreme Intelligence. So this right here is the first appearance of the Supreme Intelligence. It doesn't look anything like Annette Bening. I'm just joking. She doesn't look anything like the Supreme Intelligence. This is what he's supposed to look like, not Annette Bening. I was a little bit disappointed about that. I was hoping, the Captain Marvel movie, Annette Bening was supposed to like take on the appearance of whoever you trust, or whatever excuse that you made. I was hoping that we would get to see the real Supreme Intelligence, at least for a minute in that movie. We never did. But this is what he's supposed to look like. So he sort of gets in their head. They think it's a dream. They realize they've all had the same dream. One thing that I pointed out on Twitter real quick is, why are Ben and Johnny sharing a room and sharing a bed? They're in the Baxter building. Are there not enough rooms for everybody? There should be, because Reed and Sue, I'm sure, are sharing a room, which means they really only need 3 bedrooms. So why are Ben and Johnny sharing a bed, sharing a room, sharing a bathroom? It's silly things like that I point out on Twitter. So if you want to follow either of these accounts right here, so you can see all these stupid things that I notice as I'm reading these. Be sure to do that. But, and in this issue too, Reed Richards is a dick. Oh my gosh, Reed Richards in this issue, 2 or 3 times, he's awful. He's really, or wait, was it last issue? Wait a minute. Maybe it was last issue. Maybe he's not such a dick in this issue. Oh, you know what? It was last issue that he was a dick. Although, this is really bad. It's hard to read these issues sometimes, especially Fantastic Four. Wait, let me make sure you can see it here. Sue's been on Reed's case about, you don't ever take me out, you're too busy doing this, I want a normal life, I want to get out of this uniform, I want to go out on the town, I want you to take me to dinner, that kind of stuff. And Reed says, yeah, you're right, I've been blind, I didn't consider it full, I'm going to make up for it, I want you to buy a new wardrobe, then we'll go out on the town. Sue's all happy, I don't know what to say. She says, fine, wives should be kissed and not heard. Oh my gosh, that, and of course I have to call that out on Twitter. Marvel hated women in the 60s. All female characters in this era are written like this. It's awful. The Wasp. Take that, lady person. Yeah, exactly. The Wasp in the issues, several issues of Avengers, instead of really sort of contributing to the team, she just sort of talks about how dreamy all these male characters are. And, oh, I bet Iron Man is so dreamy underneath his armor, that kind of thing, So I am very much looking forward to getting out of this era because of things like this. That kind of stuff is just, I mean, I know it's like, it's the 60s and just ignore it or whatever. That stuff even for me, is hard to read. Wives should be kissed and not heard, and it's her that's saying it. Is the thing, it'd be one thing if it were like Reed or somebody saying that, but it's the female characters all themselves who always say stuff like this. And it's awful. It's awful, awful, awful. And we need to move out of this era. We need to get into the 70s. That's where the good stuff happens. We'll get to the 70s in Mayhem next year. So here we have the first appearance of Ronan the Accuser, and he's like regular human color. I thought he was supposed to be blue, and I think he is later, or purple. I can't remember. But here he's like normal human color. Well, I shouldn't say that. He looks. Let me retract that. He looks Caucasian, right? What I mean by normal color is he's not blue or purple like he is later in the comics and in the movie and all that stuff. That's what I mean by normal color. He's not blue or, all that stuff. That's what I meant by that. So yeah, he gets his marching orders from the Supreme Intelligence, and he heads to Earth. He teleports to Earth. White Kree are a thing, apparently. Really? Okay. But, well, even if Caucasian-looking Kree, I'm trying to say this right, even if they're a thing, this character of Ronan eventually is blue. And I don't know, maybe we'll find that out through the pages of Fantastic Four, I'm not sure. But he's this color for right now, so maybe there's a story element behind it. But yeah, so he teleports down to Earth. He creates this cone that people can't get into or out of. And he, so he does that. But the rest of, while all this is going on, nothing is going on with the Fantastic Four. Johnny's going out on a date with Crystal. Reed and Sue are going out on the town. Shopping, going to dinner, that kind of thing. When all of a sudden they all get teleported into this cone. So this is where the cartoon takes place, right? This is where the story of the cartoon comes in, is they're in this giant cone in the middle of the street having to fight Ronan. Because of how they defeated the Kree Sentry last issue. And the rest of it, Ronan is really, really powerful. His mace is really powerful. He manages to take down Ben very easily. It almost kind of looks like he weighs him down a lot. He manages to he draws the flame away from Johnny. We get some cool shots. Jack Kirby's, killing it here. They're all trying to do their part. And the rest of this panel's real creepy though. Look at that. That's creepy. But what he's doing is, because, you can't have the heroes fighting in normal clothes, so he converts their clothes into their Fantastic Four outfits. For some reason. Right? And, so the rest of it is the Fantastic Four fighting Ronan. Now, we do get a little bit of an interlude here with a mysterious figure approaching Alicia Masters, who we haven't seen in a really long time. We haven't seen her in a really long time, actually. Clothes, right? Doesn't he do what's he do? Piccolo, doesn't he do or he does this, right? That's Piccolo's thing where he, I think he does that. Or maybe that's somebody else in DBZ. The cops come out with this giant gun that I guess they got from Reed Richards or from, let me see. Solar Flare, maybe is it Solar Flare? Yeah, maybe it's a Solar Flare. So the cops come out with this giant gun that Reed, I guess, made for them. Or, yeah, it was Reed. And they can't get into this giant cone. But this mysterious character walks Alicia through a wall. I don't really know what that's all about. I feel like I should know who that is, but I honestly don't. So we'll find out next issue. What up, Ope? Solar Flare made by Tien, performed by him, Krill, and Goku itself. Okay, maybe that... Oh, is it this? Isn't that what they do? Solar Flare? Something like that. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking. I knew it was one of those guys. The rest of them, like I said, so we get some cool action. I like this shot here of Johnny and Reed going at Ronan. I think that's pretty cool. Meanwhile, Ben is, he's using all his strength to even try to crawl to Ronan, try to stand up and help. And it's just a big fight. You know, it's just a big fight with Ronan and the Fantastic Four. They finally managed to take him down, to which he, I guess, accepts defeat and teleports away. And that's it. Sort of kind of anticlimactic, right? But yeah, so that's it. I mean, this was a cool issue, a cool follow up to last issue. What's the coolest about it? What the coolest thing about it is, though, is that now the door to the Kree, to Ronan, all of that stuff's been open, right? I think a Nihilus pops up pretty soon. So we're slowly but surely seeing the doors open to all these cool new characters, cool new alien races that are going to introduce a lot of cool new stories. I think next issue I mentioned the weird, mysterious figure that sort of just took Alicia away. Like I said, I feel like I should know who that is. I actually don't know who that is. So I think we might find out next issue because she and Ben are on the cover next issue, so we'll find out. But yeah, it was pretty good. I haven't been loving Fantastic Four as much lately, but it's still pretty good. So, and we're like I said, we're slowly but surely getting into the really, really good stuff. So yeah, so that's it, guys. That's all the books that I read from August 1967. Obviously, there's more books. You know, there's Thor, there's or Journey to Mystery, I guess. There's Tales to Astonish, X-Men. You know, I just don't feel like reading those right now. I do have a spreadsheet that shows where I'm going to pick up some other stuff. I think I'm going to try X-Men here in a few more weeks once the storylines get a little bit better, I guess. I just don't love the early X-Men, that kind of thing. So heaven help us, this show may go longer if we talk about more books, or I'll have to just, you know, try to keep it more concise next week. Or yeah, next week, the books I'm reading for this week that we'll talk about next Monday, we've got all the books that we talked about this week, plus we've got a couple annuals. We've got Avengers Annual #1 and Daredevil Annual #1 as well. So we'll be covering 8 books next week instead of just 6. So, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I literally have a spreadsheet that, well, here it is right here. I've got a spreadsheet that carries us all the way through that tells me everything I'm going to read all the way through the week of Christmas in 2022. By then, we'll be on the books coming out in 1976. And man, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. So, yeah. Guys, that's it. That's it for now. I appreciate you hanging out with me, watching me talk about comic books and something that's near and dear to my heart. You know what, though? I really do kind of feel like I need to... I haven't been reading a lot of modern books, and I feel like I really need to because this is kind of like eating your favorite food every day. You might like it, but it does get kind of tiring after a while. So I've been wrapped up in Silver Age books so long that I really need to... I've got on that spreadsheet that I showed you, I actually have another tab for all the modern books, Marvel books, starting with... I want to draw a line in the sand and start with everything that came out in 2018 forward. I want to get caught up on all that stuff, Avengers and Spider-Man, and there's all the Venom stuff, which I'm way behind on, all the Absolute Carnage and War of the Realms and Thor and all the Donny Cates stuff, and so much stuff I'm missing out on because I don't know why. Because I'm so focused on doing this. So I really need to sort of take a break and read some modern stuff. Well, I'll figure that out. So I've also got another tab on there with 70s era DC titles that I would love to read and tweet and do a show on as well. I don't know when I'm going to fit that in. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But guys, I really, really do appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. I've got a good crowd in here. I appreciate all the interaction. This is why I stream this live instead of just recording a YouTube video, because I love having a conversation about comic books. I love talking to people about comics. I could talk to myself about comics all day long. I could talk to a camera about it, but it's even more fun talking to people about comic books. So, so yeah, I'm out of here for now, guys. And next week we'll be back with comics from September 1976. These 6 books plus a couple annuals. It's going to be awesome. So until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.